You're now listening to The L Zone, where Patricia Love covers everyday topics that matter to you.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the L Zone podcast with your host, Latricia Love, coming to you today with a topic about breaking cycles of miscommunication. Tonight, I have with me Mr. Anthony Stewart, special guest again. How you doing?
I'm doing pretty good.
That's what's up. So, let's dig right on into this awesome topic that came about between me and you.
Like a lot of topics do.
Yeah, they do. Inspiration behind it. I think, people should have these conversations often with their other person or friends and stuff like that. But let's get into it.
Okay.
Breaking cycles of miscommunication. I want to start this topic with saying I am guilty of miscommunicating. I am still learning how to communicate effectively with people and becoming a better listener. So while we were talking in a conversation that we had not too long ago, you brought up a topic, or you brought up a phrase of ego-centered versus self-centered, correct? Mm-hmm. Okay. And we were talking about what are some of the issues with communicating between people, period. It don't have to be in relationships or friends. It's just people, period. Mm-hmm. But I wrote down some things, and I think the three main reasons why there is a lot of issues and a lot of bad cycles in miscommunication or in communication is the ego-centered.
Being ego-centered.
2, our experiences and concepts. And 3, because of our experiences and concepts, we have an assumption and expectation that everyone is supposed to understand us.
Yeah.
And know what we're talking about and be accepting of that. Yeah. And we assume everyone is talking out of our experience and it's relatable. Mm-hmm. And 9 times out of 10, it's not.
A lot of the times it's not. Yeah.
But it starts, number 1, let's start with ego-centered. Can you explain how you explained it to me, what that actually means versus self-centered?
A lot of people say that you're self-centered, there's something bad with being self-centered. You're too focused on yourself, or you just self-centered. You don't care about nobody else. You're self-centered. When it's not self-centered, it's ego-centered if they're acting in a negative way towards you. The difference between self and ego is just a part of who you are in your total makeup. You got another part of you that's your logic, that's reason. Ego is about feeding what you want, your desires. You got to have it now. You don't care about anybody else. It's an emotional thing. Ego is like primarily nothing but emotion. Whatever you want, when you want it, how you want it at that point in time. Whereas you have another faculty in you that reasons that 1 + 1 is 2, 3 + 3 is 6, yada, yada, yada. And the difference between the two is the third part of you that I call the judge that decides between the two. So it's like an ego, and your logic is like trying to present a case. The ego may say, let's go over here and eat this slice of cake. The logical part of your mind will be like, well, no, I don't think that's a good idea because we already are fat. And this cake is going to continue to, make our health worse. So we need to not eat the cake. And then the judge part of you decides, you know what? I'm hungry. I'm going to go with the ego anyway. And we finna go get this cake. When you could make the choice and say, well, no, that does make sense. I don't want to hurt myself any more than what I already have. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of like a whole self as opposed to just focusing on one aspect and thinking that one aspect is your total self, your ego. Well, that's what I want. So that must be who I am. Mm-hmm. Well, I like slapping people upside the head. So that's just who I am. Certain people that take it like that was trying to be silly and funny, but some people take it out here too. Man, I just got to have a bunch of women. Some chick, I just like sleeping with a bunch of dudes or whatever. And we go out and mess up relationships and all other kind of stuff because we think that is who and what we are because we just like it a lot. Mm-hmm. That's your ego. That's emotion. Children like candy a lot. That don't mean they need to eat it all the dang time.
So in communicating, most people are talking or speaking out of an ego
type of situation.
Instead of, so self-centered means I need to be more in tune with me.
The whole self.
And
what is the best move to make at that particular time? It means you're incorporating your reasoning part of your mind. If it's just ego, I don't feel like listening to you right now. That's ego. Mm-hmm. This is supposed to be somebody you care about. I don't feel like listening to you right now. Dang. Okay.
Or whatever they're saying, you don't agree with it, so you speak out of like, okay, whatever.
Yeah, whatever.
And dismiss what they say.
Yeah. That's your ego.
Because you going with how you see stuff, how you feel,
Mostly how you feel, because you don't want an argument or a problem with them later. So why start one?
Right.
See, that's logical to think that way. But if you're not, and you're just going with your ego, man, that's how I feel. That's how I feel. So I say what I feel. People say that a lot.
Right.
I say what I feel. I say what's on my mind.
Right. So that's the top. That's number one, which leads into experience and concepts. Based on our experience and concepts of different things, it is hard to communicate sometimes with people because either one or two things happen. You're telling somebody a point that you're trying to make, and they'll be either on their facial expressions that they don't understand what you're saying. They're like, what you're saying is stupid. And or they'll just say, okay, and then they don't even know they're not understanding your point, which makes you mad later, thinking they had it and they didn't. But it's like, okay, the assumption and expectations, which is 3. Not everyone is you. Not everyone has the same experiences as you. Exactly. So how come we don't even think, because of the whole ego-centered, those 3 fall in line? It's either one of those 3 of why there's a lot of miscommunicating.
Yeah, and people might put it in other terms and whatnot. But if you're trying to whittle it down, that's a good zone to put it in. And the thing is to figure out, how can I get better at respecting when you don't understand somebody?
Right.
And one of the things that I like to use for people, oddly enough, is the news. A lot of people will watch the news and not have any idea what they're talking about. You don't call them people stupid at all.
No, you don't.
You don't sit there and look at the TV screen and say, man, these people on CNN are dumb. No, you just don't know what they're talking about. You just don't get it.
Right.
So, or if you're talking to somebody that's an astrophysicist and he's talking to his buddies or something.
You just don't know
you don't know what they're talking. You don't understand the language. You don't know what they're talking about.
Right.
So that doesn't make them stupid. And if you try to enter into that conversation, talking off what you think you know, they're going to look at it like, why are you?
And then they're going to start stating facts to break down that you really don't know
what you're talking about.
Right.
It's okay. Just either go learn if you want to be in that area. Same thing with dealing with another person.
Right.
If they don't understand you, you got a choice. You can leave them or learn them.
True.
Which one do you want to do?
I think a lot of, like, when you just brought up that example, I think a lot of people talk out of feelings, like we said before, and opinions, and not understanding the basic rule of having a conversation is most of the time, 99%, people are talking out of their experience, opinions, and views, not factual things.
Yeah.
So a lot of miscommunicating.
Well, a lot of it may be fact to them.
Right. And not understanding, no, you're saying an opinion and your view on things doesn't make it law. Just because this is how you see things and how you receive something and how you take in how a situation is supposed to go does not mean that that's the law of the land.
Yeah.
That's the law of the land for who you are.
For your experience.
And where you are in life.
Exactly.
That other person is like, no, that doesn't fit me, and that's not how I see that.
Let's take cheating.
Oh yeah, cheating is definitely one.
If women say all men cheat, right?
Right.
Now, every dude she may have been with may have cheated on her.
Right.
All men in her space have cheated. Well, no, my girlfriends, they say the same thing. Every dude they've been with cheated on them. That still ain't all men.
Right.
The circle of people
you can't box all men into this cheating.
Same thing with dudes talking about women. You can't trust these hoes. You can't trust this. You know how we talk. Dag. So, all of them are hoes. Like, what you doing? These bitch. What? Whoa, what you doing? Where you going?
Not every female.
Not every female like that. Fits that. But what we'll do is we'll take our experience with those men or women or whatever, and we will bring that into our relationship, saying this person is the same way. Yeah. Or we'll sit there and say, I'm gonna give them a chance. When in your head you like, they gonna mess it up. They gonna mess it up. I know they gonna do it. I know they gonna do it. And the reason I'm saying that they're thinking that is because when somebody actually does say maybe do something like that, they go, I knew it.
Yeah.
How did you know it? You were already planning on it.
Everybody else.
You was already waiting on it.
Right. Looking for the downfall.
Looking for the negative thing. And that's what we do in even family relationships.
Or friendships.
If you've been basically a fuck up in the family relationship or the bad person of the family, they gonna keep thinking that way until they have an overwhelming reason to think otherwise.
Which is very slim.
No, they usually not. That's not going. change like
up,
that.
right?
You know, that's
That quick.
something dramatic has to happen.
Right.
You know what I mean? Once you always
Because
that.
you can either choose to disconnect yourself and just
You can leave or you can learn.
Right.
Leave them or learn them.
Right. That's true.
Choose.
I think the other factor, which I didn't write down, but in communicating with each other, you can't go into attack mode. And attack mode may not be you yelling all the time, like we just said, like in Harlem Nights, that scene in the gun where Arsenio and them was shooting like, and they friend is like, pop.
When I was saying that the pop guy's like the
It's
male, the dude,
and the woman is that AKA
just
this
shooting
going
like-
off questions back to back to back, and they like, okay, first off, I didn't hear the first question, and then you hit me with 5 more questions.
yeah.
So you can't attack people and think that's communicating.
Like I always say, I don't answer books. Don't give me a book and
Yeah,
then say
even
okay,
text messages.
What's the answer to this book of questions I just gave you?
Right.
And you got to give me that answer to all of those in one sentence. Because if
That's
I don't
not
like
gonna
your
work.
sentence, then I'm going to penalize you for not giving me an answer to this whole thing in one time.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
I try to keep text, or I try my best to not talk long, because then you miss the point that you're trying to make yourself, and even the person looking like, okay, what point was you really trying to make right now? What was your case for whatever topic? And everything doesn't have to be a debate or argument. Y'all could just be having a lighthearted conversation, and it turns left just off of miscommunicating
a
look or how you came off. Like, well, I don't get that. That's stupid. Because you really don't know, and the person's looking at you like, I said it very clear, I thought. But then you have to go back into, okay.
The one of the bad things with that though is the second part of what you said. That's stupid.
Yeah.
It's best just to say you don't get it.
Right.
The moment you say that don't make sense, that's stupid. What's wrong with you? That's crazy. Why would you say? Anytime they just stop
Those
communicating with, forget a
They
communication.
stopped hearing you.
Now
They went into defense mode.
it's
And
a
I got
problem.
to defend my
It's a problem
views,
now.
opinions, whatever I've been through. I got to validate me now.
Yeah.
Because you're calling me out for
Yeah.
not understanding my stuff.
Yeah. For your experience of how you communicate.
Right.
When that particular thing they may have done or said has worked with them throughout their life.
True.
And now you the newcomer or the latest person, and that don't work well with you.
Right.
So you saying all them other people that they experienced that with is invalid? No, it's valid. You just are not in that zone or mode. So you don't take offense at it. You say,
Right.
okay, all right, well, I'm a different type of person. For me, I don't necessarily like that thing, or I don't necessarily work well. And then y'all talk that
You
out.
have to teach people how to communicate with you.
Hey,
in a sense.
learn them or leave them.
Dang. Okay.
We're going to keep coming back to that.
Yeah, and I did write down some suggestions or hopefully solutions to help people with breaking these cycles of miscommunicating and actually try to understand people better. And the first one I came up with was, of course, be knowledgeable in the art of who you are. You are the main subject. If you do not know who you are, where you at, like what is going on with you, you're not going to be able to communicate effectively to other people, whether that be your views in politics, your career, whatever it may be. If you don't have a sense of you and have a grasp about who you are, you can't really communicate effectively your opinions and views.
No, and you need to have a command of the language, be it English, be it Japanese, wherever you're at.
Like he just suggested me reading the dictionary again. When in school we think we know certain words and what they mean. We didn't retain all that information at all. I know I didn't. I didn't think I would need all this stuff. Like when we said reciting poems or I have a dream. I've not used that at all since middle school.
Yeah.
But it will help your vocabulary to help you understand words, their meanings, and use them right. So you can articulate your point or views. Or if you have a disagreement with somebody, better choice of words. Correct? Better quality of words, as you put it.
Yeah. And it's not something to be taken as an insult if somebody suggests that you might need to improve your vocabulary or build upon your vocabulary or listen to certain debates and how people communicate when we even just watching TV. Not just watching it for the entertainment, going, oh, that was funny, this, that, and the other, but listening to the words that they use, when they use them.
I've used Google plenty of times.
The proper tense which is big. Speaking in a proper tense. You don't say something like, I didn't came here tonight to talk to y'all. You would say, I didn't come here tonight.
Right.
But if you're not in the habit of thinking, or when you properly use a word in the proper context of the proper tense, then you'll say something like that. I didn't came here tonight. And people who know that you're supposed to say, I didn't come here tonight, look at you a little funny, like, man, ooh, all right.
Right.
And then they will take that and overall judge you and think, okay, this person ain't too bright.
Which leads me to point 2, not being or feeling like you're being attacked and going to defense mode when you feel like you're being misunderstood.
Yeah.
I think that's a big one. A lot of people immediately go into emotional state when they feel like what they think are their foundational opinions or views.
I go into one myself because I'm like, okay.
You go in defense mode. It's like without hesitation, you go to 100.
What? And so
when
there needs to be some type of, I think, foundation of, y'all have to come to some common grounds on how you are going to communicate to solve problems with each other, especially when it comes to that. So if I make a statement like, man, it's going to be cold outside today. Another person goes, what do you mean by that? What you mean what I mean by that? Cold. You know what cold is. Well, cold for me is not cold for you.
Right, and people say that to me a lot. And I say, well, it's not Montana cold. But we in St. Louis, I'd be like, okay, but so my definition of cold and concept is totally different.
It's different. So usually you got to ask somebody what they mean by that. And if somebody asks you, okay, what do you mean by that? We shouldn't just automatically get offended or go, everybody know what that is. That's another thing, common sense. Everybody got common sense.
No, they don't.
What is common to somebody that's not even in the group that you've grown up in? It's common to you and your social group or your religious group or your political group, your financial, whatever zone, educational level. It makes sense there. It makes sense there. That's common in that group. The moment you start dealing with somebody else, that's not common sense anymore. You know what I'm saying? Now, if you want to talk about, well, not to step off a building, okay, that's life or death. That makes sense. That makes sense. Life or death type of stuff. But we're talking about subjects that's not that serious and
black or white.
Yeah, just trying to get an idea of where a person is and fill them out and all like that. So it's like, I think we just have a general respect for that. The other person comes from a certain background. You come from a certain background. Can we talk? Can we have a established thing of, I'm not trying to disrespect you. You're not trying to disrespect me. We're not here to hurt each other. As long as we keep that clear, then we won't get in our own ego and be like, oh, so you saying I'm stupid? I can't talk. This, that, man, fuck that, bump that nigga, this, that, and the other. Now it's like, what the hell?
But that leads me to the third suggestion, which we talked about. In order to not feel that way, understanding the person's point that they're trying to convey. Like you said, it's okay to repeat back when someone says something. So are you saying X, Y, and Z? Is that what your point you're trying to make? Is that what you're trying to convey to me? Yeah. And that's up to the other person. Say yes or no. And if you say no, then say, okay, can you explain it a different way?
Yeah.
You're not going to be dumb for saying, I didn't understand. Can you take a different approach with me? Can you break it down a little bit better for me? Or even simple terms. Because if you use something, the words that I don't know, or you giving me experience that I've never experienced, is there a better way to get your point across? But it's up to the person, like you said. It's okay to repeat back. So are you saying that you like ice creams with cherries on top or sprinkles? And that person say, nah, I said I like vanilla bean ice cream, such and such and such.
Yeah.
They clarify it for you. Then you like, okay, I understand your point now. Because the whole point of communicating is to understand the person's point of view.
I remember you asked me once early on when we met, you said, do you know how to get around St. Louis?
Oh my God, yeah.
And I was stuck because it's kind of like, okay, what you mean by that? Because St. Louis is big. St. Louis is North County, South County, West County. You know, it's a lot of areas, downtown to St. Louis. So if you say, do you know how to get around St. Louis?
You're going to say, yeah.
Yeah, I know how to get around St. Louis. But then once we focus in on just downtown and you don't know these streets down here, what street? I thought it was a one-way. Or I thought it was a two-way. Why is it one?
And for me, when I say that to people, I'm like, do you know back streets? Because if we hit this traffic, do you know how to get us out of this traffic?
Depending on what part of town.
And that's what we had to clarify. So for me,
if you think you know the south side and you don't come over don't go to any side. Like you know that area
without GPS. If you had no GPS,
and you saying
are you able to get us back? Okay, cool.
That's not a good idea. So once again, that's an example of when somebody goes, okay, what do you mean by that?
Right.
Not going, dang, St. Louis, you know St. Louis. Like,
You should
okay,
be able to
don't
explain
do that. The person
in
said,
a different way for the person to understand you.
Denzel Washington in the movie said, talk to me like I'm a 3-year-old.
Yeah.
He used to say that like throughout the whole, talk to me like I'm a 3-year-old. Like, skip all that other stuff you was about to say. 3-year-old. Break it down, make it really, really simple for me so I can understand
Like
what you're saying.
pot on stove, hot. You be like, oh, okay, so the pot is hot. Okay, I got that. Okay, cool.
Sometimes I'm not saying conversation shouldn't at some point elevate and you all can communicate.
But when you have understanding,
Yeah,
and
but
patience,
if you don't understand the person, then yeah, you got to break that thing down.
And not assuming people have to know what you're talking about. Like what you're saying doesn't always have to make sense to the other person because they're not you. It makes sense to you.
Exactly.
Whether it's how someone tells you how to raise your kids or what you should be doing in your life, what you should be eating, whatever it may be.
Exactly.
It's like, no.
And on that too, I'm going to say this, that if somebody is going to pass judgment on me to tell me whether or not I'm doing right or wrong, or pass judgment on you to tell you whether or not you're doing right or wrong with your life, they first need to know what your goal is with your life.
Exactly.
What are you aiming for? What are they aiming for? Like, if you don't know what somebody's aiming for, don't judge them because you don't know.
Don't assume.
If you're not on that path. So one of the things I've had to deal with a lot as an entrepreneur for decades, people consistently saying to me, trying to talk to me out of a job context. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, well, Dad, one of my friends says, he's like, man, how do you live? He's like, dude, what the hell? What do you do? Because my norm in my world is this works for me. And that's cool. I damn sure don't hate on it, but I'm trying to do something else.
Right.
So if somebody's trying to do something else, if you don't understand what they're trying to do,
don't knock what they're trying to do.
What they're doing. That's a bad way to look at it.
If someone tells you,
because you're in a zone, don't mean that's their zone.
And if someone, that's a good example. If someone, I know a lot of people have an issue with people telling them how to raise their kids.
Oh, yeah.
And it's like, remember, you can't tell other people how to raise their kids. Just because you have a certain criteria for how you want to interact with your kids, don't put that on other people. Because that may not work for their household.
Yeah, I agree.
So if you don't have a common ground or conversation where y'all can come to some type of compromise, then it's like, okay, we can come to a compromise, but don't automatically assume people have to adopt your philosophies.
I agree.
At the end of the day,
I agree. And it's funny because me being in the religious group that I was in at a certain point in time, and the way I raised my children, not that they perfect or anything like that, but there was a certain way we ran the household where I would have people ask me, I'd be like, Dad, so your children didn't listen to rap music when they were children, like when they was kids?
And
I'd be like,
what?
Nah, They can listen to whatever they want to now. They older, they can go listen to everything. But so far as them growing up, the last thing I wanted them to hear was certain things in the music. Now, I would never go try to tell somebody else that about their children. But the funny part is, I would have people trying to tell me about I'm messing up
with
my children. Man, they not gonna be well rounded if they don't listen to some of the crazy. Music? Like, are you serious? What you mean they're not gonna be well rounded?
You mean for as if they go to some part of the hood? Like, clarify what you mean.
They really mean your child, you doing them an injustice. Same thing with the eating. So your children have never eaten pork? I'd be like, they might be eating it now. I don't know.
That's not my problem.
Coming up in the household, no. So to have people you would think it would be the other way. I'm out on this crusade going around telling people, nah, I try to stay off, in my zone.
But it's amazing how people would do that to you, but don't like stuff doing to them.
Hate
which will cut down on the miscommunication if we just, like what we say, 3 fingers pointed back at you.
When you point your finger at somebody, you got 3 fingers pointing right back at you.
Right.
And usually when you point a finger at somebody, the saying goes that you're really highlighting something that you need to change about yourself.
Exactly.
That's why it's standing out. It's like the universe, God, however you want to break that down, is showing you that that's something you need to check. You need to go look and stand still and like, Dad, do I do that to other people? For real? And ask yourself that and really try to become self-centered.
Right.
Centering on yourself and developing yourself as opposed to ego-centered where it's like, oh, I'm good. I know I'm good just because, I'm good.
You can't tell me about myself.
How you doing?
That means you would never be able to learn anything or to grow if that's the case.
I know we're running out of time, but this thing cracks me up right here. When I meet people on the street, you're like, hey, how you doing today? Blessed and highly favored. You be
my God.
Dang.
I was like, okay, believe that. That's what's up.
You like, you don't sound too blessed right now. Highly favored, you sound like you angry, you mad at me.
Like
I
you
didn't
bitter
even do
about
that. Did I
something.
do something to you? Why even ask
Like,
like that?
don't bring that energy over here. I don't need that blessed and highly flavor. I got my own.
Why would
and
you
they
take,
don't look like that.
Why would you take
Right.
positive words and bring negative energy
Connotations to it, right?
behind it?
Yeah.
I'm good. You know, or the people who you speak to, then they don't even want to talk back to you at all.
Mm-hmm. But they go to church.
You can't speak to somebody on the street.
Right.
You can't talk. You just can't say hello, hey, how you doing?
I will say this to that, and I will end it on these type of notes. When I lived in Montana, moving from St. Louis for the first time, the people up there spoke to everybody they passed on the street, sidewalk, store, wherever. They was like, hey, how you doing? I'm like, I'm not talking to them because St. Louis, depending on where you from, I know definitely I was like, you don't supposed to speak like that to people you don't know. Especially when on base, they was like, hey, you all need a ride to the laundromat because we didn't have a washer and dryer at the time. I'm like, I'm not getting in the car with no goddamn go stranger. No, we finna get kidnapped. I'm not doing that. But living there after a while, we stayed there for about 4 years, moved back to St. Louis. It was like, hey, how you doing? People mean mugging, looking crazy. I was like, well,
bring it over
okay, hey, I was just speaking. And I realized, I said, wow, me moving away, learning a different way that it's okay to speak. Sometimes it's nice to be kind to another person. It's okay to be cordial.
I like to hear at the apartment on the elevators how
Oh,
it's
yeah,
kind of like a
everybody-
running thing.
thing.
You need to speak. You know, if
Something.
you're getting off the elevator, like all
have
right,
a good
Jay, have
day.
a good day. Say something now. If not,
Right.
then you kind of feel like, okay, this person ain't from here. They don't live here.
Exactly.
You know,
So
you live
now
here, you
it's-
speak.
Right.
Yeah.
And then communication, I'm like, it's okay to learn a new way to learn how to talk to one another. It's okay to be compassionate, and it's going to teach you a lot of patience. Believe me, I'm learning my patience with communicating with you and other people.
Dang.
I'm just saying. I'm telling you, on this path, I thought I was like, okay, I'm getting good at this. And then I thrown in a situation, I'm like, okay, I need to work on this a little bit more. But it'll help you. But it's a good way to try to break cycles
Yeah.
that are helping you through life. These are cycles that need to be broken to create a better you, a new way for every one of us to start really understanding each other and get into some positive motion and pathways to new doors. It's okay. New ways open new doors to you. That's how I look at it. So that's my 2 cents. Anything else you want to add?
That's it.
Well, I thank you for conversating with me tonight.
Well, thank you for having me here to conversate.
Thank you for dialogue. You so silly. You all have a good night. Thank you for listening.